Hey, good morning, fuckers, and welcome to another day at the Daily BM. What's up, Mikey?
Hi.
And what's up, EP Shae? What's going on?
Not much. It's a good morning so far. How are you?
It's great. I just want to say one thing. You people out there in La La Land have no idea what the fuck I deal with on a daily basis with these two. Let me just tell you. See what I mean? See what I mean? There's always a smartass in the channel somewhere, you know?
Always. Somewhere.
Always.
A smartass.
Yeah. Well, talk about being smart or not smart.
Yep.
I don't know about the rest of you guys, but I was like looking at my bank accounts. And I'm going to be honest with you, man. I don't know about you guys, but, and again, I'm going to be a little political here. So if anybody gets pissed off and is a supporter of one side or the other, but I don't know about you, but I am paying like fucking 4 times the amount for just about everything these days, whether it comes from gasoline to clothing to food, especially. I don't know if you guys have been to the grocery store lately, but it's gotten freaking ridiculous as far as how much everything is when you go to get food.
I stopped eating.
I started growing my
It's
own.
the weight loss. Can't afford it anymore. I'm gonna fucking lose 30 pounds naturally just because I can't afford to eat. Maybe that'll be good for Americans. You know what I mean? Seriously, if you're from another country, they already think we're fat asses anyway. But think about it.
They don't think it; they know it.
Yeah,
see it.
You don't have to think it. You can just look. You can just look at us, and we're like, I mean, that's
numb.
Yeah, we look like the Stay Puft Marshmallow Mans from Ghostbusters. I literally, I sound like a dick when I say this. Hold on, I sound like a dick when I say this. But when we were out at the other day at our event, I was just looking at people, and I would say probably over 60% of them were overweight, myself included. But I'm just saying they're just seriously obese.
Yeah,
and I was like this. I'm going, God damn, dude, how the hell do you afford your fucking food bill? I mean, because, like, even though I don't go to McDonald's anymore because of the fact they're so damn expensive, but I'm saying when I did go to McDonald's, it was already up there in price of like $10 for a value meal or what, or not even. I don't even know why I call it a value meal anymore because there's no value to it whatsoever. But now they're talking about like
not even a meal.
Yeah, it's not even a meal anymore. But it's like out in California, I think they're raising their prices to like $18 for a freaking Big Mac meal. I know we've talked about this on other episodes.
That's because they just raised. I think didn't they just raise minimum wage to $20 an hour out there?
Yeah. Oh, that brings on a whole nother subject that we can talk about on a whole nother show.
Yeah.
But you absolutely 100% accurate on that.
Yep. Which I saw because I saw like a bunch of small businesses. They just said, "Hey, we can't keep up," so they closed the doors, and all the employees were like, "On Friday, I thought I was going to get $20 an hour, and now I don't have a job." And I was like, "Welcome to the new world."
Yep. Welcome to the new world.
Companies will just close and not be able to support you.
I wanted to talk about money here, but a second, but I am going to actually just bring this up because I don't give a shit. So the reality is that I saw that there's a burger place in California that actually, because of what you just said at the $20 an hour, that went fully automated. Like I'm talking, the robot arm cooks the fries, makes the burger, and everything. Like everything. And they tried it out live on TV and they were like, I can't tell the difference between a human making it or the robot. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So this is what happens, people, when you say, hey, we want $20 an hour for minimum wage. And then all of a sudden now they're wondering why their job is fucking gone. You know what I mean? I hate to say
the only problem,
AI is going that route.
Only problem with that though is now all those people that were working in that job don't have income to buy those burgers. So eventually you're going to run out of people to be able to buy the products that the robots are making.
Yeah.
Somebody made a statement about that.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was going to say, somebody made a statement about that because they said, okay, that's where universal income is going to come into play now.
Mm-hmm.
So we might be in that Star Trek world at some point, you know, but get ready.
I'm not opposed to universal income.
Why? Why do you think it's beneficial?
Okay, so here's why I think it's beneficial. So you have your creative types out there, you know, your artists, that until they get big, they don't really make money. And oftentimes it's posthumously that they get big, and then that's when their estate makes all the money. So by having a universal wage, you could facilitate the arts, you know, the people that create. It's happening kind of organically on social media because people that are creative are getting paid for their content. But with the universal wage, you'd have a lot more ability for artists to be creative. And also it would standardize and make sure everyone has a fair standard of living. I like universal wage better than minimum wage because minimum wage just creates inflation because the price has to be passed on to the consumer because that's what happens. With a universal wage, you wouldn't have that because it would be flat, in my opinion.
Well, you can't. I see another problem too with right now going. I know you're saying about the universal wage, but I see a problem with the inflation rate because you can't keep borrowing money and borrowing money and borrowing money and borrowing money and borrowing money, and before you know it, you're going to be broke and you're going to owe so much that nobody's going to lend you money anymore, which is going to create a collapse. Right. So I guess what my point on of this is, what do you do about your debt? Like, how do you even get started? Try to, get this debt down.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of different theories out there. Dave Ramsey's baby steps is one that a lot of people quote, which I'm sure you've both heard of before. Are you familiar with Dave Ramsey and his baby steps?
Yes.
Okay. So, the first thing is to build your emergency fund of $1,000. That way, if you have some type of issue, you'll at least have $1,000 to cover that. And then the next step is pick your lowest balance payment and start making extra payments towards it till it's paid off, and then rolling those payments into your next debt until you're financially paid off. And then the next baby step is to get 3 to 6 months worth of savings in an emergency fund. And then you can move into paying off your house, saving for retirement, and saving for your kids' college and financial freedom. So that's one of the methodologies out there. I've got a couple issues with it, but
what are your issues?
What are your issues? State them. I mean, I'd like to know.
So my biggest issue with Dave Ramsey is he's extremely against credit cards, and I understand the principle behind it. He says to cut up all your credit cards that you don't need a credit score at all if you live cash only. Problem I see with that is you're going to end up paying more on certain things because if you don't have a credit score, it's going to be harder to rent apartments and stuff like that. I'm not saying you can't do it, but usually they ask for a bigger deposit down, which in their books, they argue that if you have the financial means because you're saving and you're not in debt, then those aren't big issues because you can just put a little bit more down to pay for the difference. But my thought process is why go through that hassle when you can, if you just learn how to manage your credit card smartly, then you can have the best of both worlds. They also go into the humanitarian side of it because, like everybody loves their credit cards because they give all these rewards and perks, but those rewards and perks are paid for by somebody. And usually it's the people that are on the lower end of the income scale that end up paying the people that are on the higher end of the income scale for those rewards. And the way that works is, somebody that has money, they use their card, they pay it off religiously every month, they get the rewards, the flights, the cash back, all that stuff. So they actually make money off their credit cards. But the people that pay for that are the people that they go out and they charge stuff and they only make the minimum payment. And all of a sudden they have, a $2,000, $3,000, $10,000 balance that they're paying just the minimum payment on, and they're paying interest every month. And all those interest payments is what's used to help pay for the rewards programs. So they feel like it's a bit of like, I don't know what's the word I'm looking for. When it goes against society, it doesn't help society out. It's very like, narcissistic's not the right word, but basically you're taking advantage of the lower income individuals. Yeah, it's predatory. That's what I'm looking for. It's predatory by the people that take advantage of it because they're taking advantage of the people they can't afford because that's all getting financed by those people, because that's how the credit card companies make their money.
Yeah, and see, and my biggest problem is that, okay, so you're in inflation right now. Everybody's feeling the pinch. Everybody's feeling the pinch except the extremely wealthy, right now. Until it starts hurting them a little bit, they don't care. Let's just face it. They just don't care.
They don't care because they know how to manipulate the system, so they don't
Correct.
feel it the same way we feel.
They don't feel it the same way we feel. But I'm just saying, people that have
Mm-hmm.
lower incomes and that are living paycheck to paycheck, it hurts. So my question is okay, it's all fine and dandy, yeah, to say, oh, okay, rest up for $1,000 and do all that. But let's just say to the average middle class person right now with inflation and those credit card limits are going up, how do you start like with that debt? I know you said something about the Ramsey, you know, and then, you know, you pay that smaller account, but it seems like when you're, do you choose between feeding your children or to pay on your mortgage? You know what I mean? It's like, okay, so now you got to pick, you know what I mean? It's like, it's not like where it was like, okay, now it's down here. It's like gotten up here again. It's moved around.
You're listening to the Daily BM.
Yeah, I mean, when times are like this and people are going to the store and they, you know, not for nothing, but I think that I read, was it NerdWallet article that said at the Q4 for 2023, credit card balances in the U.S. had gone to $1.13 trillion. So if people are at a point where, for some people, it's not that they suck at credit card management, but right now they might not have another choice. So how are you supposed to manage that when you go to the store and your basic needs and things that you know, you're having to fall back on something like that because of the state of things right now. So what do you do then?
It starts with a budget. That the very first step is a budget, because you have to see where your money's coming in and where your money's going out before you move past any other step. It's to sit down, figure out how much you have coming in and where it's going. Because oftentimes, you know, when you sit down with people and you start to go over their finances, you'll find they don't know where their money's going. Usually people that have money problems don't really know where their money's going. They just know they have money coming in and then it's gone. And I'm not saying that they're not paying their bills or getting things done. It's just they're not actively managing it. So basically what you have to do is every dollar has to be assigned to something.
Accounted for.
And accounted for.
Yeah, 100%.
Dave Ramsey's program, Every Dollar, that's exactly what it does. It just tracks every dollar that comes in and goes out. And there's a lot of different software packages out there that can help you track your money and decide where it needs to go. But that's the first step, because, you know, oftentimes, especially in America, we live in an environment of wants, not necessarily needs. Okay, because you might say, I need Netflix, like I need that for entertainment. That's not true. It's not really a need. It's a want.
It's a want.
But when you ask people, that's part of their need list. Like that's on there. That's something they don't want to give up, you know, because that's their entertainment. You know, your cell phone service. You know, if you're in really dire straits, do you really have to have the ability to go on the internet on your cell phone? If you're in that dire straits, could you cut your cell phone bill down to just text and talk, or do a Go plan where you're just basically paying for the minutes that you use to talk to people on your cell phone as you're talking? You have to make the hard cuts, but people aren't willing to make the hard cuts. You know, do you really need to have two cars? Do you need to have a brand new car with a new payment? Because there's so many times you'll see people, they'll go out and they'll spend, you know, half their paycheck goes to a car payment between, you know, gas, insurance, and the car payment. You know, half their paycheck is their car because that's what they identify with. They're like, I'm not going to be caught dead driving, you know, a Honda Fit because that doesn't fit my personality. I need to have, you know, an F-250 diesel, you know, with big rims and tires and lights and ground effects that cost me $1,500 a month. You know, as opposed to driving something that's more cost effective.
Affordable. Yeah, cost effective.
Affordable. Right. And a lot of times people go out and they buy things on credit cards that they really don't want and they really don't need. It's just an impulse buy because they've seen it online or they've seen it in the store and they're like, oh, I'm just going to charge this and I'll pay it off later.
Online shopping at night when you're bored. Yeah.
Right. You know, and you get things and you're like, oh, this is going to help me be a better person because that's what the advertising sold you. And then you get it and you immediately have buyer's remorse and you don't buy it. So a lot of it comes down to behavior and behavior patterns and what you spend your time and money on and your effort. So the first thing is again, make a budget, figure out where everything's going, and then really sit down and go, is this a need? Because like water and food is a need. But you can literally live off of like, beans, rice. You don't even technically need meat because you can get protein from beans, and carbs from rice and fat from, lard, which is relatively inexpensive. So you could eat and be alive for pennies on the day, but nobody wants to do that. We're like, oh, I want to go to McDonald's or I want to go to Starbucks, and it's that kind of stuff. So it's really making the hard decisions. Like, how much do you want to suffer now to get out of debt so you don't have to suffer for a long period of time? It's like, do you want to suffer a lot in a short period of time, or do you want to suffer a little for a long period of time?
But
And that's the decisions you have to make.
Yeah, you made a valid point earlier, about making the decisions on what you want versus what you need. I wanted to keep my YouTube TV subscription, but that's like almost $100 a month. So I actually cut that out of my thing. I was like, you know what, man? So I just, like you said, Mike, I literally went in, I kind of researched a little bit, and I was like, okay, I can pick up 69 channels here locally if I just go get an HD TV antenna. So that's exactly what I did. I went to Walmart, of all places. Well, I went online because I hate going to the store. That's a whole other freaking subject, but I hate going in that damn place. So I literally ordered it, got it here, installed it, ran the cable, bought this little, so I think my whole entire package, I think came out to like $105. So 1 month of YouTube TV that I was paying for the exact same stuff pretty much is what I was watching. I got an amp booster, I got the antenna, I got the install, the cabling and everything. Did it myself, got it up there, saving $100 a month right there. And now, I get full HD channels.
Now, on the converse side, what I would have said is, okay, do you really even need to have any of that? Because you could take that $105 and apply that towards paying off a credit card or paying a credit card down.
Yes, that is true. But I just
as
still
opposed
like
to going out and buying it. And you
I
could
still
got
like
a
to
library
watch the
card
news.
and went and
I still like to watch the news. So yeah, it was a personal preference. I was like, hey, you know what? I can sacrifice 1 month of that $100, right? And now I don't have to pay it anymore for the next until I decide to ever bring it back, or I may never go back because I might be like, this is all I need. My next step is to go through and cancel some streaming services that I don't need. And we're going to bring that up on another show, but it's just going through, like you said, you made a really good point earlier about going through and creating a budget and actually tracking every dollar and everything that you do and where you're spending it, because then you'll see how much, I hate to use the word waste, but I'm going to say it anyway, how much wasting you're doing by wasting your money and going, oh, I'm going to have this, I'm going to have that, because you don't really need it, but you just want it. So,
I mean, if you just spend $10, if you just spend $10 a day randomly on random things throughout the day, $10, which is next to nothing. I mean, that's a Coke and a bag of chips. That's a Starbucks drink. It's a burger at a fast food joint. That's $300 a month. And if you have a $2,000 credit card bill, $300 a month, you're paying it off in, what?
7 months,
6.5 months. So just by cutting out $10 a day out of just random stuff that you might buy, getting a.
And you said something about this like 3 or 4 months ago. Mike and I were going out a lot. We were grabbing food, for lunch, and we started instead we just started buying stuff for the house and eating at home. And then sometimes we would eat that same meal 3 days in a row. Yeah, it sucks, but that's just the sacrifice you make to say, hey, you know what? That way I can have that extra $300 a month in your pocket or whatever it is that you need.
It's sucking as a mindset because, back, 100 years ago, people didn't have that luxury. Like they lived off of what they grew. And if they didn't grow well, they didn't eat well, at this day and age, like food that we consider sucking is actually pretty freaking delicious compared to the standards that were before us. We have so much
eating the same thing every day. I'm a little spoiled there. I can't lie.
And no, that's what I'm saying. I remember my dad telling me stories because they lived in rural Texas and they lived in the Dust Bowl. That's not the word for it, but it was basically a small town outside of Corpus Christi that they had outhouses and stuff like that. And it was just nothing there. And he worked at a lumber mill, and they would eat potatoes and Oh my God. Like, it was some type of meat. It was just literally like a sliced piece of meat that you just boil forever and then it gets tender and then you eat that. And that's like all that they ate, like day after day. Like potato soup and like
So like
potatoes and
skirt
like,
steak almost, where you have to like
yeah,
really
yeah.
tip the shit out of it. Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, it was stuff like that. Like it wasn't like this abundance of like green vegetables and like, meals and stuff like that. So there's a lot of things that we go through that, you think that you have to have, but you really don't. And if you can trim the fat here and there, then you can get yourself out of debt really quickly. The biggest thing though is before you buy something, stop and ask yourself, do I really need this? And wait. Wait 24 hours before you make any purchase. Because oftentimes you'll go, I don't really need this.
Yeah,
Good point.
that and it's not just the food and the subscription services too. It is
Everything.
it's the clutter. It's the extra going to the store and, oh, this is cute, but do you ever pick it up and already know where you're going to put it? Do you know exactly where it goes and what benefit that it has for you, or are you just taking a bunch of more crap home that you are going to have to get rid of later? That also is a big, money suck
Yeah, it's
of
another
things.
epidemic.
It's a dopamine rush, when you go to the store and you spend a little money and you have something in a bag and you take it home. But are those intentional purchases? Did you
Right.
did you need it to perform a function that was lost, or did you really really need it, or did it just call to you from a shelf from somebody who was good at marketing and made you take it home and it was another waste of money? That is my wrap up on that. Intentional, and I feel like we really need to be more intentional, especially now, with what it is that we're putting our energy into, and that includes what we spend our money on. And you got to treat your household finances like it's a business, to be honest.
Well, it
you
is.
got
It's your personal
yeah,
life, so it is your
yeah,
business.
yeah.
I mean, we have an epidemic in the country right now with storage centers. They're popping up everywhere because
Hmm.
people have more stuff and clutter than they can store in their houses. So instead of getting rid of stuff and buying less, what do? We go out and rent, a 4x8 storage unit, fill it up. Then we rent a second 4x8 storage unit, fill that up, and then go, well, maybe we should rent a 8x20 and move all this stuff. It's full. So we have an 8x20 and a 4x8. And next thing you know, you have four or five storage sheds at $700-800 a month. And this is not, I mean, this is not me personally, but I've been on the research I've done. This is actually what happens. And over 90% of those people never go to the storage center to get their stuff again. Like they don't, it goes there and it just sits and waits and disappears and rots. And
For somebody to come and buy it, and they get to sell it
yep,
to somebody else.
right. And they don't actually, they don't utilize the stuff because we have this big problem in the United States of we have to own stuff. Like we have to own it. We can't use it. Like think about your property, like the size of houses, how huge the house is for the number of people who live in the house compared to other countries. And how we all have to have our own manicured yards and our own mowers and our own weed eaters and edgers. But in reality, if you lived, like, say, in an apartment and you went to like Bonnet Springs, or Carter Road, you can go out and enjoy a public park, a public space that you don't have to maintain or own directly, buying your own equipment. You still pay for it through your taxes and stuff, but you can share this common space and have the exact same experience that you do at your house. But you don't have to buy the grill, you don't have to buy the mower, the weed eater, and all that kind of stuff. I mean, that's something I've been thinking about a lot lately because I have like a 2-acre piece of property and I've got tons of stuff. And I'm always going, do I really need to have all this stuff? Is it giving me that much more joy? Because once you buy something, there's more cost that goes to it than just buying it. There's upkeep,
Maintenance.
maintenance, storage, the mental awareness of it being there and making sure that it's not rotting or just withering, wasting away. Then tracking it, keeping place where it's at, making sure you know where it's at all times in case you do need it. So there's a lot of baggage that comes with stuff. And the less stuff you have, the less of that baggage you have. So, there's an interesting, going back to the finances part, there's an interesting application that one of the guys, Craig, pointed out to me in the Iron Council. It's called Cube. It starts with a Q. And basically what it is, it's a credit card that you buy, or not buy, but you sign up for. It's actually a Visa debit card. And it's virtual envelopes. So you assign money to each envelope, and the card tracks it by category spending. So you can only spend up to that dollar amount in that category. So if you put $200 in there for food, and then you scan it and you're at 201, it'll decline the transaction unless you go into the app and adjust your buckets, your different envelopes. So you cannot overspend in category spending without going in and authorizing the change and reshifting your dollars. So it's a pretty cool program. I haven't checked it out.
I'm checking it out right now. It's cubemoney.com is what it is. It's Cube Money, QUBE money.com.
And I thought that was an interesting premise because, back in the day, like, it was a lot easier. You had a physical relationship with your money. Like when you took out a $20 bill and you handed it to somebody, you felt the transaction going away. Because the 20 would leave, it would leave your wallet or your purse. You'd hand it to the person and it would disappear. And then they would give you back either change or whatever in a smaller amount. And then you put that less in your pocket. With a credit card, you hand them the credit card, they hand it right back to you. It's the exact same transaction. Like you're getting what you gave them back exactly in this format. So you don't have that mental distinction of losing something.
Well, now it doesn't even leave your hand. Now you don't even take the card out most of the time.
Right. I mean, I pay a lot with my Apple Watch, so it's just tap. I just tap to pay, and I don't, just tap. Don't even think. There's times where I tap to pay, and I don't even actually know what the transaction amount is, which is scary, and that's especially like at quick food places, like when we were at Sun and Fun, I would be talking to Brad. I would say, hey, I'd like a drink and a hot dog or whatever it was, and they'd be like, maybe like Peanuts teacher. And I would just hold my wrist up and be like, ding, and they could have charged me whatever because I wasn't paying attention.
Yep.
And then, and then I just got my stuff and went off on my happy way. And I never had that sense of like separation from my money because, it used to be, like I said, you give $1 and you get 10 cents back. You give them a 20 and they'd break it. Like I remember younger, anytime I have $100 bill, I would never want to break the $100 bill.
Same.
Like I would literally put stuff back because I'm like, I don't want to break this 100. Like it'd just be like, I don't want to break, because the minute you break it, you have that sense of loss. Like it's going from a Benjamin Franklin to like, Thomas Jefferson.
So true, man. It is.
It is
fucking true.
And you don't have that now.
It's like with a credit card. It's like you don't see it. It didn't exist. That's the bottom line.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, and then you have a tendency to buy bigger things because, I mean, how many times is it, you go into the store and you have an intention to go buy one thing. Like, it's like, for me, it's like tools. Like, if I go buy a tool, like I get there and I'm like, okay, I need this. And then I see, oh, the next model up has more features. It's it's better. It does it faster. It's 25% faster or whatever. And it's only like an extra $40. And I'm like, oh shit. Well, let me get this. And I spend it because I can swipe it. Whereas before, if I'd only had $100 on me and it was 140, I couldn't buy it because it was $40 over my price limit. I wouldn't be able to spend it. But with credit cards, you can just swipe.
Yeah, I think that goes back to the same topic we were talking about in the previous show about making sure that you are kind of feeling that money leaving your pocket, no matter how you're achieving that. You need to be able to know where your money's going, and you need to have some kind of level of discomfort when it leaves you. I mean, it's always uncomfortable when it leaves you, but
that's how I feel every time I spend something. Anybody wants to see what I just did, just go over to our YouTube channel. You'll check it out. Yeah. So Mike, give your final thoughts, on about the subject here that we're talking about.
The final thoughts is no matter what situation you're in, there's probably areas that you can cut from your budget to get yourself out of debt. And if you're really in that dire straits where you sit down and you're like, I can't do it, then you may need to like figure out if it's time to declare bankruptcy or, do a debt consolidation program. If it's to that point. But before you do that, sit down, do a good budget, see where you're spending money, and then ask yourself, is this something I really need or just something I want? And you're going to have an ego. You're going to have an ego hit because, especially in America, we drive cars that we can't afford. We buy houses that we can't afford. We wear clothes that we can't afford because everything's financed through credit cards. So my final thoughts is start with a budget, see if you really need it. And then if you don't need it, don't buy it and start socking away your money towards paying off your debt and getting out of debt.
Well said. I think I'm going to leave on that note, man, because that was very well said. So, guys, don't forget, head over to thedailybm.com where you can follow us on all our socials over there, our YouTube channel and Rumble as well. You can like and subscribe and follow us on those platforms as well. Mikey, you got anything before we get out of here?
No, that's all I got.
All right. Shae, thanks again for coming on the show, and we'll catch you guys on the flip side.
Bye, guys.
Have a good one.
Deuces.